Thank you very much. Well, I have to say, it's a great pleasure to be here. I am speaking all over the world with destinations and industries, talking to them about the future of travel and how we need to innovate and rethink how we do things as destinations. But it's very rare to speak to a national industry which is so driven on ambition and, as we just heard, has such big ideas and is very serious about them and ready to go and get them. So you guys are really at the cusp of really winning on an opportunity which is just sitting there right for you. So you've had the introduction. I've got a very short time, so I'm going to try and paint a picture for what I think the opportunity for Finland is, to give a thought starter to the rest of today. So in thinking about the brief that I was given today, to think about travel distribution, but think about that in the wider context of destinations and what a destination should be doing to stay relevant and to be competitive in the future. I drilled this down to 3 key paradigm shifts, which are quite clearly in front of us right now. The first, and this is the one I like the most, is that the traditional notion of a visitor cycle, a visitor buying cycle, has completely and utterly been destroyed over the last few years, thanks to mobile. So we often lean back on that visitor cycle as a strategic guideline, and it still sits there for that, but it has been completely disrupted. The second is that the always-on consumer is now completely setting the terms. If we're not working to a customer-first strategy, we're just completely missing the point as to what we should be doing. And this is really driving everything that we do. And the third is that technology, as we heard in one of the opening talks, is so transformative right now. Every single thing that we do leaves a digital footprint. Everything that we interact with is a digital interaction. And technology is really, really driving the product and experiences that we're going to have tomorrow and in the future. And so these are the 3 points that I want to focus on in today's talk. Now, first of all, this is the visitor cycle that we have been referencing for many years. It's a very simple cycle, taking us from awareness through that funnel to booking, to experiencing, to sharing, and then that affinity, that loyalty with our customers, which brings customers back to our destination. And this is great. It works. It's a good guideline to base ourselves on. This was the very first kind of idea of the visitor cycle. Then we shifted to this notion of an infinite loop. We recognized that social had really, really transformed what we need to be doing as marketeers, how we need to craft and design experiences which really deliver, that create word-of-mouth marketing, that enhance the reputation, and that tell other people to come to our destination. But now what we're looking at is something that's more like this. It's a scatter diagram of the many, many thousands of different touch points where we interact with our visitors. It's no longer linear. It's not even an infinite loop. Every single thing we do creates touch points, and the fabric of the destination is very, very complex when we think about that digital visitor journey. And so this is a huge shift in how we've been looking at destinations and how we've been looking at how we should manage and market those destinations in the future. So that's the first thing I want to start with. I want to move from that to how we think about marketing and marketing in moments and the importance of finding relevance at scale. And the key question is, how can we exact the right story to the right audience and do that in a really personalized way, yet do that at scale? I've got a great quote here from Unilever, from Keith Weed at Unilever, who basically says that their ambition is to have 1 billion one-to-one relationships. We're all talking about niche marketing and niche products, but we still need to do that at scale if we're going to see the benefits to our economy. Secondly, the next thing to think about is our visitor journeys as a series of moments. That scatter diagram is just a visual representation of the many thousands of touch points that we have with our visitors. And just one that's starting to really become interesting today is voice and human language. So finding me flights for Helsinki today, using voice search to do that. Hey Siri, what hiking trails can you recommend nearby? This is increasingly going to become how we search for and find experiences to have. And of course, smartphones are really what are driving that, but we're seeing other technology as well coming into play. The consumer is increasingly informed, and what's really important is that we understand how behavior is taking place online and how we provide answers and respond to those questions that consumers have. And Google has shown that there's been a huge increase in mobile searches for best. People are in the moment at that point in time, and they want to know what they should do, and they want the right answer, not 1,000 answers. And the last point in the marketing changes is thinking about that right now, right here consumer. So they want to see results that are completely relevant to that place and time. We're talking here about context and understanding the context of our visitors and giving them the right answers to that context. So we've always been talking about people like Visit Finland and national tourist boards and city tourist boards and regional tourist boards all around the world, not just talking about Finland here, as DMOs. But actually, the notion of the DMO is completely obsolete. The notion of that being a marketing organization has completely changed. In fact, it's a game changer, right? You didn't expect yellow. Snapchat have redefined themselves from being a social media network to a camera company. So if a relatively new player that's already been seen to be disruptive can reinvent themselves and reposition themselves, then we can certainly do that as a travel industry. And the reason they're doing that is what's crucial here, is that they want to augment and expand the possibilities for their future from being a media and communications-driven company to being one that's all about technology, because it opens up so many more possibilities. So with that idea, I want to introduce to you, and I'm absolutely promising you, we did not synchronize what we said earlier today, the notion of X, Destination X organization. And you can put whatever you want into that gap there, but the idea of marketing is out the window. But if I would lean you towards a few things, thinking about experience, thinking about the customer, as we heard this morning, thinking about data, management, and innovation are all really, really key. I've just had my time a little bit shorter here. So first of all, thinking about two things. Think first about putting the visitor first and driving with a visitor-first strategy, thinking about their needs, their passions, their touch points, their interests, their behaviors, and what they really look for. The example of Alipay was great. And thinking about delivering on brand. So we've been communicating this amazing brand, but make sure we deliver that in real. Make sure it really delivers on that promise. And so I want to just introduce 3 different thoughts for you to end this opening talk. So what does Destination X need? Well, first of all, the fundamentals are still the same. We need to support the growth of our tourism industry. Secondly, and I've put in 100 years, but I think it's right. We need the vision to build for the next 100 years, not for the next year or the next 5 years or even the next 10 years. We need to have that ambition for the long term. And third, we need to export this destination, tourism, as a brand, as a product, as a service globally. But we need to see the benefits of that at a local level. So just touching on those 3 points very briefly, if I've got time to do so. So first of all, thinking about technology as a catalyst for local distribution. You know, at the moment, global distribution networks dominate the vast majority of the hotel and accommodation sector. But tours and activities is a huge opportunity that's just waiting to be taken. And I think this is something that's really exciting when we think about what we can do to actually support our industries. So yesterday, we had hosted and centrally managed systems. Today, we've moved to cloud-based systems, and there's so many out there, and we're about to hear more about that later on. And tomorrow, we'll actually be designing experiences that are technology-driven, that have AI, tech, and autonomous experiences completely built into them. And so that sector is just set to continue to revolutionize. What does that mean? Well, for the industry, it means targeting this right here consumer and being able to actually sell and engage with them. For the visitor, it means responding to their needs. For example, I've got 2 hours for lunch, what can I do? And having the right answer, having the product, having the experience right there and then. And for the destination, well, we're talking about thousands of providers. We're talking about thousands of touch points. And it's about becoming the superglue for all of those that sticks them together. Secondly, this 100-year vision notion. How are we going to get there? We're not going to get there by being marketing-focused organizations only. So promoting innovation and conscious leadership is so, so important to actually be able to shift how we work and what our output is. Here's just a little insight for you. McKinsey are predicting that on a global scale, automation technologies will represent 50% of the world economy. This is absolutely huge, and it's a reality. So we can either resist it or be fearful of it, or we can embrace it and be at the forefront of it. But to do that, we need to change our approach. So we often talk about circular design. In a nutshell, how everything works together in an infinite loop. Industries, sectors, people, strategies, plans, everything working towards the same end goal. Glass box brands. We used to paint a lovely black box of what we are and who we think we are, but now people can see right inside that, and we need to live and breathe that. And thirdly, design-led solutions. We use design thinking ourselves on a remote level, but design thinking can be scaled up to a huge level. And a company like IBM is a great example of probably one of the leading companies that's championed design thinking. Now, finally, thinking about the global opportunity, but also seeing the local benefit. There's so many questions that I see from industry everywhere I speak. We need to support local businesses. We need to extend our season. We need to see tourism that benefits everybody, not just a few of our so-called members. We need to think about visitors as locals, not as tourists, so they integrate, and there's that social value as well. And we need to make sure that nobody in our industry gets left behind. This is an industry full of micro businesses and micro enterprises that sometimes really struggle with this shift. And, you know, for the brand, how we actually then export that and have that global ambition, it's complex. These 6 pillars are the key pillars to building a destination brand. This is not new, but it's particularly relevant in a globalized and digital world. We need to think about so many different things which will export and enhance that brand. How we build a leading multimodal travel system, how we invest in new technology, research and development for the travel sector, and how we design and optimize that visitor experience so that we're right at the cutting edge, we're right at the forefront for travel industry and as competitors. So just some of the things I'm hearing from destinations wherever I go. We're a media company now, is something I've heard quite a lot. We're a matrix organization. I've heard that quite a lot as well. We're privately funded and led, so those ones that don't have any public support have had to sort of do it themselves. I don't think any of those models are right for Finland. I would just challenge you to think about this Destination X organization. Think about how can the DXO of tomorrow shape public policy, and how can policy drive sustainable growth and development for the destination. And on that note, I want to say thank you very much and hand back to you.